Hi everyone, this is Module 10, Lesson 13, and today we're going to talk about point of view. Today's reading focus is on the narrator's point of view. So how does the narrator's point of view change or stay the same in different stories, and how are first person and third person narrations different? Our learning target today is I can compare and contrast the point of view based on who is telling the story. Point of view is who is telling the story. So there's a first person point of view, and that is where the narrator is part of the story. And stories that are written in first person include pronouns like I, we, and me. So that's a story that you're reading, and the person that's telling the story is actually in the story and telling you about what happened specifically to them. So these stories have characters in the story as the narrator, and as a reader, you learn about other characters from what they say to the narrator. So in this type of first person story, you really only have a full insight into the narrator's point of view, because it's just you're only learning about their experiences. There's also a third person point of view, and that's where the narrator is outside the story. Stories written in the third person include pronouns like she, he, or they. So it's sort of like an outside person telling about another person or people. And stories told in the third person have the narrator is not a character in the text, and the narrator can't tell what all of the characters are saying, doing, and thinking. So it's different. In the first person, you know specifically what the narrator is thinking and feeling. The third person is giving you, telling you the story about these other people, so you might not get their full thoughts and feelings. So how can you be really sure which point of view is being used in a story? Well, let's look at a step-by-step way to figure it out. So the first thing that you always have to do is read the passage. You can't make an inference or come to a conclusion until you've read. So after you read, you're going to cross out the dialogue in the story. And the reason that you do this is because when there's dialogue in a story, sometimes if it's written in first person or third person, they can use the opposite pronouns and it can become confusing. So dialogue. Spoken dialogue is marked by quotation marks. And then there's also internal dialogue, which is like when characters are thinking to themselves, and that would be marked by italics. So you're going to cross out all that dialogue. And then you can focus on the pronouns. So in the first person, we're looking for pronouns like I, me, my, mine, we, us, our, and ours. And in the third person, he, him, his, she, her, hers, they, them, and their. So you're going to focus on those pronouns. And then you can take it a step further and try to figure out if the text is third person, is it third person limited or third person omniscient? So in third person limited, the author is or narrator is only giving you the thoughts of one character. So you as a reader only have the insight about this one character. If it's third person omniscient, the author actually is giving you the thoughts and feelings of multiple characters. So you have a deep understanding of what multiple characters are thinking and feeling. So let's practice using this strategy to find the point of view of Cooper's lesson. You're going to follow along with me as I read the first few paragraphs out loud. Cooper's pockets felt heavy with loose change. He grabbed his dog Katso and laced his shoes. Be home by dinner time, called Cooper's dad. Cooper, exclaimed his mom, could you pick up some ginger at Mr. Lee's store? Kamashna Minda. Cooper sighed. His mom always insisted on speaking only Korean to Mr. Lee, even though Cooper could barely follow along. Once Mr. Lee had scolded him in Korean for not speaking Korean. Since then, Cooper felt funny every time he walked past the old man's store. Sure, Mom, Cooper called over his shoulder as he and Katso began their walk through the neighborhood. Okay, so I've read the passage. Now remember, I'm going to go back and cross off the dialogue. So I'm crossing off all of the places where someone is speaking. And then I am going to focus on the pronouns. So I've circled all of the places where it says he and his and him. So based on that, I know that this story is written in the third person. And I can tell because of the use of the pronouns and because I only know the thoughts and feelings of Cooper, this would be the third person. It would be considered third person limited. I have no idea what his mom and dad are thinking in their head. I only know that Cooper sighed and he's like feeling a little bit uneasy about going to the store. For your challenge today, as a way to explore different points of view, for your independent work, you are going to rewrite a section of the text from Mr. Lee's point of view. So right now the story is written in third person. You are going to rewrite it in the first person point of view, and you're going to pretend that you're Mr. Lee. So you're going to pretend that you're Mr. Lee and you're using the first person pronouns I, me, we, and you're retelling the story. So you want to make sure that the same events happen, the same beginning, middle, and end, a piece of the story. And how would Mr. Lee tell this story? So you have to think about his experiences or his feelings as the events are happening. And I always think that when you're doing an activity like this, it might help you to pretend that you're Mr. Lee and that you're writing in a journal so that you can like really get into character. So remember that you have to include his thoughts and feelings to replay the story through Mr. Lee's point of view. I hope that helps, and I hope you enjoy the independent work. Have a great day, and I will see you soon.